Hey everybody, welcome back to Small Town Music. Today we're going to kind of talk about some interview red flags and green flags because we are in kind of job hunting season for some of us. If you're looking for a new job, if you've graduated college and you are looking for your first job, which is super exciting. We're going to kind of dive into that. Hopefully this helps you out. And then with that, if you're feeling a little nervous about if you interviewed for a small school, why should you choose a small school? Like, why is this better for you, maybe, than a different school?
We should make like a top five reasons to consider teaching music at a small school.
Reasons. I don't know. There's a lot. Just a heads up, if you don't already know, we do have a YouTube channel. If you're listening to this on a podcast, and if you're watching on YouTube, we do have a podcast channel. Yeah. So, all right. We'll dive in. So as you're interviewing for schools, I guess we'll start with the red flags first. This one's a little bit funny because Laura and I only I interviewed at several schools, but we've only had one job.
It's kind of weird that we're doing this episode because we're both at our first jobs.
But I know that with this job,
you actually interviewed other places. I didn't.
Yeah. I interviewed several places, and none of them, like looking back, I think there's things that I was like, oh, maybe that was kind of weird. But overall, like, I think as someone who's taught for more than just a couple years, that we both have enough experience with different administrators and different people and even different teachers around us. And I know Laura's been on plenty of interview committees that, like, we can kind of understand, what are some things that are good to look for and what are some things that might give you, like, a red flag. So I think on mine, you kind of have to read between the lines on some of the questions. Like if they're asking you like super weird, like ultra personal questions or just things that are uncomfortable, that might be a red flag. And I know like in my interview for Bloomfield, I actually, the superintendent who, I don't know should I say that? I don't know.
Just like both of us, especially being female, were asked questions about our personal lives. And
some weird, just a really weird and kind of uncomfortable question.
So for the record, like they can't ask you personal questions about your
lifestyle,
like if you're married or your plans for children in the future, or they're not allowed to ask that. And so if they do, you don't have to answer it. It's okay to say like, I'm not comfortable asking that. That doesn't have any bearing on my professionalism.
In small schools, there is a higher chance of getting that question. Unfortunately, But I think we're trending towards a world where that doesn't get asked. I do not feel, as a woman teaching, I have not felt uncomfortable around my admins currently.
No,
like they have never made me feel weird or uncomfortable or.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's one, kind of red flag. Just be aware.
Yeah, and I think also just kind of with the reading between the lines, you can kind of get a sense of where their priorities lie based on their interview questions. Are they asking you questions about your teaching style or about your, your desire to stick with the standards, or are they asking things about, competition and your willingness to do extracurriculars? Like, you can kind of get an idea of like, are they really focused on a strong academic program, or are they really more focused on a strong performance-based program? And ideally you would have both, but you can kind of get an idea of where your administration's loyalties lie there.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, then like just look around the school, look around your facilities, kind of take notice of, are things looking relatively updated, relatively modern? Does it look like things are not falling apart? Is the ceiling leaking? Do you see rats skittering across the floor? Those kind of things, because then that can tell you like if that district is thriving or not, and kind of where their priorities lie. Is their football field immaculate, and then the music facility is like falling apart?
Yeah. And it's okay to ask to see the facilities. Like if you're there interviewing,
you should absolutely.
Hey, usually they ask like, do you have any questions for us? If they haven't already volunteered a tour of the facility, say, hey, would you mind showing me the band room, or would you mind showing me the choir room? And you can kind of take a glance there.
That's going to be a really good thing to do, to know what you're getting into. I student taught at Bloomfield, so I knew exactly what kind of facilities I was getting into, what equipment, and my predecessor, she worked really hard to get some really nice stuff for us. Like they didn't have those like Wenger perfect posture chairs. They didn't have timpani. They didn't have like a marimba. There were several things that like they didn't have that she was able to fight for and to purchase throughout her time there. So that's another thing. So if you walk into that band or choir room and you're like, okay, I see this piano is held up by shoeboxes. I see that our timpani like do not work or they do not exist. You know, and then that would be another good question to ask, like, hey, I would like to, like, I can already see that some of this stuff needs replaced. How can, like, is there a plan in place for that? Like, how can we look forward to that?
What's the avenue there? And you can see from their answer, like, are they going to be willing to help you out with that? Are they excited about your desire to better their program? Or are they, you know, or is their response more like, oh, geez, this person's going to just want to come in and spend money? And that could be a red flag for you. But just because the facilities are subpar isn't a reason to automatically, you know, X off that school. It could be a great chance for you to make things better and to develop things into the way that you want them to be.
I think with any interview, it's really important to remember that you are interviewing, like, them as much as they are interviewing you. Like, if you're going to be in this job, theoretically, you're going to be there for at least a year, if not longer. So you need to feel comfortable with the people that you're interviewing with. And I student taught at Bloomfield, so I had a really good in. And I knew the principal. I had talked to him before. I knew Laura. I knew I was going to work with her. Chances are the current music teachers that you may be working with are going to be on that interview panel. So how do you click with them? Do you feel comfortable talking to them? You know, do you like talking to them? And things like that is really important to look for. Red flag and green flag. Like if there's just something about someone in that room that strikes you weird, it's okay to not take that job. And I know it can feel like desperation when you're in that, like you just graduated college and now you're going for your first job and you have no job. And it's like May, June, hopefully not, you know, it could be July. I've heard of people, you know, not getting a job until like 10 days before school started, which you'll have a job. It'll be okay. But, yeah, make sure that you can feel comfortable. And it's kind of hard in an interview because we're all like, it's like 20, 30 minutes of your time that you know, don't always get such a good feel. But I know there are a couple schools I interviewed at that I was like, I just don't feel like I click with these people. And I think they felt it too because I didn't get those jobs. But that is an important thing. You got to feel the vibe.
And I feel like maybe especially at small schools, you know, like Katie said, I've been on several interview panels. Katie's my 4th band director that I've worked with at Bloomfield in my time. And so whenever I've been in those interview sessions, it becomes really important to me to feel like, do I feel like I can work with this person, you know? And so maybe more so at a small school, that community, do we feel like they'll fit in with our school culture is maybe even more important than at a larger school. But we always joke that the girl who had the job before Katie, that she got the job because she had a Swatch watch on.
If you don't know what a Swatch is, it's like a really fancy, like, whimsical watch.
Right.
And so she had
hers was like orange slices on it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, but she had this really like professional suit. She was very put together. She's a very organized and wonderful person.
But in an interview, you kind of have to look for those really tiny things that's going to set you apart.
And so for us, I was like, you know, sure, like she's very put together. She has very good answers, you know, to all of the academic questions, you know, but we could see that and be like, but we could tell she had a creative side. And she does. As we got to know her, she's a wonderful artist and a very creative person. And so I think it's okay to be yourself because, you know, if they don't like who you are in those 20, 30 minutes, then, I mean, they're not going to like you for years. So if you don't feel like you can be yourself with them, if you feel like you have to be, well, really, on either end of the spectrum, someone that you're not, then that would be a red flag, I think.
I think another good question that I didn't really think to ask when I was interviewing, just because I hadn't really experienced discipline issues, but like something good to ask might be, what happens if a student is like having a meltdown and I need to send them to the office? And on the admin side, to kind of gauge what their response is and what their procedures are. And does that align with a discipline policy that you can get behind? That if they're like, well, that's your job to figure that out, like we don't take those kids, then like probably not a great situation to be in if a student's, having a moment and you're not allowed to send them out of class.
Right. It's important to try to gauge that if your admin is going to support you, and we've been pretty blessed that we've got a pretty supportive admin where we are. So
yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we kind of lumped in the green flags with the red flags, but yeah, like feeling comfortable. Yeah, it's all those good things. I think too, getting a feel for the town, the area that you're going to be around. Like, is this an area that you feel you would be okay living in? Like, we live relatively close to a larger city with like plenty of restaurants and shopping and culture and shows, and I mean the big music school is right next door to us, and so we can go see an opera, and we can go see a wonderful choir perform, and we can go see an amazing orchestra, and we can also just like get out of town and do some really fun things, and also in our town that we live in, we have a grocery store, we have a couple restaurants, we have gas stations, we have
a coffee shop.
We got a new coffee shop, and I'm really excited about it. There are things that, like, it's not, empty. Like,
Sure.
There's a town down the road that has, like, a pizza place that's open, like, every other Thursday or something.
Right. So like, finding, do you want to be 10 minutes from Target, or do you not want to have to sit in traffic on the way home? So these are trade-offs. The more I drive in traffic and the older I get, the more I'm glad that I don't.
Yeah.
Something else, just an interview thing, as I was thinking about, is make sure that you ask them to clarify all of their expectations as far as performances. Do they expect you to be at every basketball game? Do they expect you to
be at sectional, regional, semi-state, state games?
And what classes do they expect you to teach? Are you going to be expected to only teach your performance-based classes, or only your general music? Or do they have you covering study hall and lunch duty?
Yeah, I've run into the situation.
Things to be sure to ask.
There was definitely a time when because of the way the elementary classes worked out, we ended up having like extra prep. Because there's only, 3, maybe 4 elementary classes, and they can only do extra music one time a week if they're K through 3, because STEM happens 4 through 5.
It's such a Tetris puzzle.
Right, and so I ended up having like all this extra time, and so instead of like finding a really good solution, the principal was just like, well, we'll put you as a kindergarten aide. I was like,
what?
No,
we
thank
talked
you.
about this last week. Yeah. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
So just be sure to just ask, and again, that can kind of also give you a feel of their, how they feel about your importance in the school, and the importance of your classes, and whether they want to make sure that your time is used valuable.
I don't know. Our brain just broke.
If they want to use your time well, or if they feel like your classes are expendable.
Guys, we have 4 weeks of school left.
14 days. 19 days. 19 days.
14. That would be amazing.
Yeah, we're going to get there.
All right. So now I want to shift to looking at why you should look at teaching at a small school and what's really awesome about it. So we clearly have chosen to teach at a small school. I do want to point out that for both of us, I know that her family and her husband's family is all from here. Like, she grew up here, all that good stuff. For me, I'm not from here. I went to college really close, and I student taught here, so I felt very comfortable, and this feels very much like the town that I grew up in. But I married someone who, his family is all from here. His mother, sister, grandparents, aunts and uncles, they're all here. Which, if you get married and you want to have kids, that's a really sweet deal to have in-laws or your own family members, because they can help you out. But also, he has a really sweet job that he will not leave anytime soon, unless, obviously, like, if he's feeling like that job is not fulfilling, then he will. But, like, that job is not. Yeah, like, I have put down roots. I'm not leaving. So for both of us, that's kind of part of it, and not to say that like we are stuck. We can't go anywhere. But
Well, I think that's the thing is like, I'm in the point in my career, I've taught for 15 years now that, I'm starting to, people send me the bigger jobs that are opening up that are within driving distance. I could choose to commute to a larger school where I wouldn't have to do so many extracurriculars, where maybe I would have a ton more funding and all that. But there are a lot of reasons that I choose to stay in my small school.
I think there's definitely a misconception that we have to climb this ladder in band, that like, oh, the small school, well, get some experience, it's a stepping stone, then you can become the assistant director number 4 at big name high school in Indianapolis, or whatever. And it's like, but like, why? I really like the school that I'm in. I really like that I'm working on building these relationships with these kids. And no, I don't have 500 kids in my band program 6 through 12, but I have really awesome kids that I know really well. So kind of shifting into that autonomy is one of the biggest positives, I think. That like, my principal doesn't know what it means to get a bronze at contest and doesn't know that that's not like the best thing ever. And
if you're watching, I guess now you'll find out.
But yeah, like I decide mostly my concerts. I mean, there's an expectation to have, we perform at the Town Apple Festival. We do a Halloween parade. We do a Christmas concert. We do a spring concert. We do the 4th of July parade in the summer. But really, like, I get to choose what I want to do. If I don't want to go to ISMA contest, they're not fighting me for that. If I don't take a busload of kids to solo ensemble contest, I'm not getting backlash for that. In the past couple of years, especially with COVID, like, the interest has just not been there for myself and my students. Like, we are just tired. But I get to decide what I want to do. And he, my admins are present in the classroom. I mean, I have to do my evaluations, but even our superintendent, which this is a really cool thing, so watch out for this. If your superintendent just like willingly shows up in your classroom to observe and to spend time with students and with you, that's a really good thing. So they are not pushing us to like, perform high level pieces. They're not pushing me to do a competitive marching program. And I choose what I want and how I want to do it.
So, if you like to have control of your own life, like I do,
I like it too. I think I could deal with being, an assistant director, but I've come to be comfortable with
I'm not sure I could. It's okay. It's who I am. And so it's important to me that I be able to kind of choose my own adventure. And so I love that about where I am at my small school, that, I have the power to look at my kids and see, just like the last couple of years where I decided to, I'm going to combine my middle school and my high school choirs into one group. Like, I had that choice and no one batted an eye at my decision to do that.
I combine my pet band. So my pet band, I give middle school students the option of joining. And of course, like, they don't play the pieces as well as the high schoolers, but they do add to it and they have a lot of fun. And I'm allowed to like use community members in my pet band, and
for sure
they don't bat an eye.
and like, even curriculum wise, whenever I have this 7th grade vocal music rotation class, and so I had 3 sections of it. They're 12-week rotations, and each section has been a little bit different because I take what that group of kids, what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are, and the things that they're interested in, and we tweak it just a little bit. Maybe we spend more time doing sight singing with one. Maybe we spend more time on rhythms with one. Maybe we spend more time doing history stuff with one, just based on how those kids respond. And again, I have the autonomy to do that, to tailor and make sure that not only that the kids are mastering what I want them to master, but also just so that the kids can have a more meaningful experience in my classroom.
Yeah, we have a makerspace at our school, which if you don't know what that is, it's a lab with like 3D printers and this Glowforge laser cutter engraver machine and like all these shop tools and like a t-shirt vinyl cutter press thing. It's really cool, and so it's really open for any teacher wanting to do a project, a hands-on, project for their class. And I was able last year to take my middle school and high school band, and I gave them a project that was just create something that will help, that you think will help band. It could help recruitment. It could be a sign to help remind you to put up your chair at the end of class. It could be, something else. And so these kids came up with some really cool things. A couple of the kids came up with like this shelf that they would put in their locker to help keep their music organized. And it was like these 2 8th grade boys who I was like, you want to keep your music organized? Like, what? That's awesome. But like, who are you? And then I had, I had another girl that was talking about if she made a sign to remember how to correct yourself if you miss a rhythm. And so for her, that was also a learning process of, okay, if I miss a rhythm, the first step, I go back and repeat it, and then I count it, and then I sing it, and then I play it, and they got to really do some cool hands-on stuff. And that was a project that, like, I didn't really have to get approved. I didn't have to prove how this is helping my students. And my principal was really excited because I was using the makerspace.
Yeah, so autonomy, I think, is a great thing. It does mean that you have to maybe be a little more, you have to make a point to be more visible.
Yeah.
Because out of sight, out of mind can be a thing, but as long as you send out those emails, make the social media posts, do things to make sure that your program is visible, we can really highlight the great things that you can do.
Yeah, another really awesome thing is I can recruit however much I want because I teach the 5th grade elementary music class. And so I am able to talk about band all year long. We can even talk about it starting in preschool because I also teach the preschool music class, which some of you might be like, why? Because I like it, that's why. Because I'm crazy. But I get to talk about it. I get to take my high school band because my high school band class meets during the 5th grade lunchtime. I get to walk them halfway down a hallway.
Right, 50 feet, something like
that. It's like a 1-minute walk to the elementary cafeteria, and we get to play pep band songs for them and get them excited. I get to even, take my middle school band and kind of take them around to their classrooms and talk to them because we're a K through 12 building, pre-K through 12 building. And so I don't have to, plan these travel things, and I don't have to talk to the other school's principals, and I do, but he's also my principal.
Right. Well, that's the other thing is we have no feeder programs. Like we are our own program, and so that also means that I've heard other directors complain about like, oh, like the elementary teacher did it this way, and I do it this way, and so I've got to completely retrain my kids to do it my way, or vice versa. Like, nope, like we just how we teach is the way we teach it, and it's also nice because since we can chat with each other, if she says like, wow, like my 6th grade band kids really like can't play with a steady beat. Yeah. Okay, well
let's work on that.
Then you know what we can start doing in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade music? We can start playing instruments to a steady beat more and making sure that we're, fixing those things as we're building up.
Especially in the after like 2 or 3 years, you become very aware of your teaching flaws, which some might think is a negative. I like to look at it as a positive because I can really be like, oh yeah, I don't do that very well. And I know like for me right now, I'm looking at my 6th grade band coming in versus my 5th grade. We don't spend enough time in 5th grade music harping on those like note names and rhythms and writing music and those kind of music theory, musicianship qualities, because I kind of do some other stuff in 5th grade. And so I look at that and say, okay, how can I fix this so that my life is a little bit easier when they join 6th grade band? And so that's a really cool thing. And then also my bands, I look at that, after they've been in band for 2 or 3 years, I say, okay, we are very good at lyrical slow passages. Let's work on those fast technical passages. Let's harp on those scales some more and do that.
So another really cool thing about being in a small town, and we've talked about this before, is community, is the tight-knit, just community that you're instantly a part of. And, that can also be a negative, as far as, people can be in your business maybe.
More than you want.
Maybe more than you always want to.
I've experienced some pretty good.
It's amazing, like in our small school, like we have seen some heartbreaking tragedies in our small school in the last
couple of years, 3-4 years.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the last like 5, like we've seen just some really heartbreaking stuff with our kids and with the families in our community, and the way that our small town, the way that our school just like surrounds these families is just enough to make you really want to be a part of this, be a part of this area. The fact that that these people have got your back, if you need something, like I know Katie said this before, we got a kid who needs,
just like basic necessities. Like we know this kid their parents are struggling and we know they can't hardly afford rent, let alone like hair care products or
or even as simple as like, hey, like I've got, I need somebody who needs their, a white button down shirt and black pants for the concert. Like anyone have a size medium, button down shirt.
Help. Yeah.
And it's amazing. Like no problem at all. Like absolutely, what do you need? And we've had the same thing with the choirs,
and we've also had there are like retired music teachers in the area that I can reach out to that really enjoy helping, like want to come in and help spend some time with my students. I'm not a brass person. I'm a woodwind player. So me teaching brass, I can definitely see that's a weak point of mine. And so for especially my beginning students, having that extra person come in, and especially it's a person that they know and are comfortable with, that they've seen around, they've been around, and that's a really cool thing for them to be able to work with that other person. That isn't me giving them incorrect information.
Yeah, and we see that too, with like the community band stuff, or like the pit for our musicals we talked about in our musical episode.
Adults, yeah.
The fact that we have people, and I know in a bigger school, it almost seems counterintuitive, but in my experience, in my conversations, even though you have more people around you, it's so much easier to be isolated. People expect everyone to kind of take care of their own, and that's just not the way it is. At least that's not been my experience. That instead, like we want to take care of each other, and if someone has a need, we want to reach out, we want to help, and so that's a huge benefit to being in a small school.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's like don't throw away the opportunity to teach in a small school so fast because all your friends are teaching at these really high-powered programs. I know it's really easy, especially for me. I have a ton of friends who are like in these really awesome schools and they like get gold with distinction at contest every year and they do like all these cool things and I get really down and I'm like, well, what am I doing wrong? You're not. It's okay. Like they have struggles too. We don't see that on Facebook and that's a whole other like philosophical podcast, I'm sure. But like, it's one of my favorite quotes from Kodai. I'm going to paraphrase that like a music teacher in a really high-powered big program who's doing a bad job will get fired within a year, but a music teacher who's doing a terrible job in a small town will like kill the love of music for generations. So remember that we need really good teachers in our areas too. And that's also why we're doing this podcast. Is to help reach out and to encourage if you're in a small town.
And to help you stick with it, so, make that choice and you're going to get there and you're going to see your challenges as you will at any job. But stick it out because turnover can kill programs really quickly. And so stick it out, reach out. We're glad to help. Reach out to the people around you.
Yeah, we
and teach those kids.
To be fair, I haven't checked the email in a couple of days. I still have not gotten any emails. Like we haven't gotten any emails about like show suggestions. Maybe you're sitting there listening or watching, and you're like, man, if only they would use this microphone or this setup or this whatever. Like, tell us, man. We don't know what we're doing. We're trying to give you some good information. And if there's something that's like really distracting to you that we do that is as simple as like put this setting on Logic instead of this. Like I don't know, like help.
Or just say hi. Just say hi, I'm listening.
Also rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify podcast, that would probably also really help to get our podcast out to more people. You can find us smalltownmusicpodcast@gmail.com is our email. small.town music is our Instagram, so we try to post like little micro professional development stuff or just fun stuff that we're doing. TikTok, small town music. I posted a couple videos. We're getting there. Is that it? We're on YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Podbean.
All the things.
All the things, yeah. Just let us know you're there. I don't know.
Hey, enjoy the beautiful weather. Summer's almost here. We're gonna make it.
Yeah. Congratulations for any of you college graduates out there. That's super exciting.
Yeah. Katie's finishing with her master's. She graduates this weekend.
I do. I'm so excited.
Super exciting.
I'm so done.
So excited. All right. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.